I think the draw is a fair result for me. I think first half we were the better team. We created a couple of chances, and when I saw the lineup, I thought, oh, it's going to park the bus here. It's going to be back to the wall stuff. And in reality, the first half wasn't like that at all. I thought Pedence picked up some really good positions in the kind of half space. He's coming short, which is what we've been lacking really. But then Donker's got to score that chance in the first half, the header. It's, if you're going to get something from games like today, we've got to be scoring chances like that. But to be fair to him, the run he made was great. That's what we've been after for the past few weeks, is those late runners coming from midfield, which doesn't happen with Neves and Moutinho. But yeah, he's got to score that. But then second half, Chelsea weren't going to come out the same team. They pressed us extremely well in that second period, especially out wide with with Marcel and Hoover, who didn't have great games. But I think Chelsea kind of pinpointed that as weaknesses, and every time they were in possession, they would swarm towards them and force us into a mistake and regain possession. So I think defensively, though, apart from a couple of balls over the top that nearly caught us out, we were sound, really, really good again. And when that ball did come over the top, there was a couple of good recoveries from Sace. So no complaints. Sarr, distribution was poor today, but then makes a world-class save to keep us in it, which he's been doing all season. But it's not sticking up top at all, is it? Jimenez looks shot to pieces. He looks void of any confidence. But who'd you take him out for? Can't put him in for Silva because the club, by all accounts, aren't happy with his attitude. And we haven't got another striker really, so that's something I'd be looking at in Jan if there's an option there. But definitely another central midfielder too, because we need a midfielder who can break through the lines. Look at Kante and Kovacic today. They're wonderful footballers and cost a lot of money, but we need a player who can get the ball and drive through the midfield. So that's what created a lot of chances for them today, and we're crying out for a midfielder like that. Don't think centre half's a priority because then Donker can play there, Marcel can play there, and it's only going to be for January if after the AFCON happens. But I think a point is a good result. You don't mind playing like that when it's Chelsea come to town, City come to town, but when the likes of Burnley come to town, that's when a performance like today, where it is backs to the wall stuff, isn't acceptable. But 4 points against Brighton and Chelsea on to Boxing Day. It's a good couple of weeks.
I think given the circumstances, I'm really, really happy that, we got a point. To be fair, certain decisions go our way. We're looking at a completely different ball game. But to be fair, I think given the fact that, where Chelsea are in the league, and obviously given the uncertainty before today's game, whether it was even going to be going ahead or not, I'm just really, really happy, firstly, that we got to see football, and secondly, that, we got a point against a very, very good Chelsea side. Final score, Wolves 0, Chelsea 0. The team selection kind of confused me a little bit at first because the 3-4-3 seemed to work really, really well against Brighton with Trincao, Adama and Podence. And then we just went back to the 5-3-2, Jimenez and Podence. And we was kind of a little bit like, don't necessarily know if I agree with that, especially with Semedo being dropped as well, unless there was an injury problem, because for me, Semedo's probably been arguably one of our better players this season. You can argue him in the debate for one of our best players this season, incredibly underrated by our fan base. We started off the game really, really well. We done exactly what we needed to do in the first couple of moments, which was we were straight in their faces, we were showing them no respect, and we were just closing down every single opportunity that we needed to do. And we just weren't shying out of any tackles as well, and it was absolutely brilliant to see, especially Marcel and Hoover as well. To be fair, the midfield, all of them were doing it. They were all doing that really, really well, to be quite honest with you. And then after that, we kind of just we needed kind of that break from the midfield. We kind of needed someone that could make the runs basically just to penetrate past and get past Kante and Shalaba. And Moutinho, we've not seen Jean Moutinho do that for God knows how long, where he just picks up the ball, just started driving with the midfield, playing in a perfect ball to Marcel. It's just unfortunate that Raul Jimenez is offside though. But it was really, really good play. And to be fair, we actually built on that as well, and we still look really, really good. But it was just the fact that Lino's given it so late. And if he's given it straight away, there's no arguments, there's no debate. But he's waited and waited and waited until pretty much the goal celebration was over to be going, yeah, that's offside. It's an absolute joke, to be quite honest with you. But it's not even the worst decision. The Kante handball. That's a red. That is a red card and a handball. Podence would be through in a 1v1 situation. But again, they've got to check the badge. They see it's Chelsea. No, we're just not going to give that. But, it's just really, really frustrating, to be honest with you, that, because that changes the game completely, and that completely changes the mindset of all the players. And, who knows? We could be talking about a different game right now, but the reality is, VAR's a joke, Lino's a joke. I mean, if everyone can see it, then how is they the ones that can't see it? It's an absolute joke. And then after the Kante incident, we were still liking the game, and we were still really causing problems, especially on the counter-attack, and we was winning every single midfield battle. We ended it a little bit kind of, Chelsea were just finding their way into the game a little bit. Sarr really wasn't tested in the first half, to be honest with you. But, I mean, the one opportunity, Leander Dendoncker, man, he has to score. He has to score his opportunity. He has literally got no one with him. You could argue he could even take a touch in that circumstance. But he's just headed it. He's just done what he normally does, just head it straight at the goalkeeper. And it just begs the question, like, he gets in those areas, but if he doesn't score, what's the point of having him playing? If we're not going to have a midfielder that can, put a simple opportunity like that away, I don't know, really. But then we didn't really create anything after that. They brought Saul on in the midfield, and we were just losing that battle. And to be fair, they were just picking apart, like the midfield area. Defensively, we were still looking really, really strong. Kilman, Cody, and Saiss were absolutely brilliant. But we just kind of just let them get back into the game. But they weren't really threatening. It was only the Christian Pulisic opportunity where, it was a really, really good save from Sarr. Again, it's just showing why he's one of the better goalies in this league. He's so underrated. And I think that's a really, really good thing as well. I'd rather him be underrated than, a load of people going, oh, yeah, he's all like overhyped and everything. I mean, I'd rather all our players be like that, to be honest. And to be fair, most of them are. But it was the fact after that, we kind of like sat back a little bit, but we never really looked like conceding. There was never really that threat. Obviously, it's not great watching it from like a Wolves standpoint, from like a supporter standpoint. But in terms from a player's point of view, they weren't really under the cosh. They weren't really under a substantial amount of pressure as they have been against, your Cities and your Liverpools. But it's a good point. It's a really, really good point. And I'm really, really happy that, we managed to, come away with something from the game, especially given the fact what happened in the last two games against the other two sides that are fighting for the title. I mean, it's good. It's good to see. It's really, really good to see. And to be fair, we're building an identity now at Wolves, which is something that, there's been that article that came out where people are going, this ain't a trend. This is basically, there's no identity to Wolves. No one's got a clue. The big difference between what we're seeing under, Bruno and what we're seeing under Nuno is with Bruno, you can actually see a defensive structure starting to emerge. We just need to add a little more patterns in the midfield and the attack, and then I think we're sorted. Whereas with Nuno, there was no real direction, there was no sign of improvement, and it was just sticking a load of bodies back defensively and hoping for the best. Whereas now every player looks like they actually know what they're doing, and they actually look like a team, which is really, really nice to see. And this is actually a proper transitional season. None of this, from last season where, Nuno had a transitional season. This season is a transitional season, and Lage is going to need more than one transfer window to really stamp his authority on Wolves. Because how many managers have you seen come in after 6 months, not given proper backing, and they're still doing miles better than what was done under the previous manager with the same amount of players? But I just think keep the faith in Lage. Unless there isn't any sign that it's not going to get any better, then for me, Lage has got my faith. 100%, he has to stay in charge. And yeah, Fosun have got to back him in the window. Thanks for having me on, lads.
So, Wolves 0, Chelsea 0, and a very, very decent point. No controversial penalties or last-minute goals to decide this one. We do get a point against the three teams challenging for the league this season. We could have got 0-0s against Liverpool and City, but of course we didn't, and now we actually do. And to be fair, I thought it was a pretty decent performance, particularly in the first half. Second half, not so much. I think we were in danger this season, probably sounding like broken records, in the sense that off the ball, the team is superb. And the same again today, really. Defensively, we're so much better than any other season I've seen us, really. Pressuring the ball well, getting clearances, particularly with crosses as well, where we're a lot more aggressive in defending crosses than we used to be. Defenders winning a lot more headers, getting first to the ball. That was a big issue. That's been sorted. And again, it proved to get again today. I thought the midfield in particular was solid. Neves, Moutinho and Dendoncker have played a lot of football in recent weeks, but I thought that they still showed a good amount of energy and a good amount of drive throughout the game to win the ball back consistently. And in the first half, I thought we used the ball pretty well. Now, Chelsea obviously started well, but once we started getting a foothold in the game, I thought we were much better in transition, getting the ball higher up the pitch. Podence and Jimenez were working well together. Of course, getting the ball in the back of the net, it was a correct offside decision, although nonetheless frustrating anyway, because we could have really done with that goal at that moment in time, considering we were on top. And yet again, the old sort of curse of us not really scoring when we were on top came back to haunt us. But I thought that we took the game to Chelsea well in the first half and created a decent amount of chances. I thought that we looked dangerous every time we got at them. And I think that's why in the second half it was disappointing to see us not do the same thing. Because I think when you look at what we did in the first half, we were very productive. But we sort of sat back a little bit in the second half, even though I thought Chelsea were there for the taking, and I feel like we definitely could have got more, which is odd to say because they've been superb this season, hit a bit of a rough patch at the moment, but still a very, very good team. And when you consider the fact that our squad has been depleted, the fact that it is, we've got so many players out with injury at the moment, first team players that would make a difference in this squad, I think that a point, considering the fixture congestion, is a very, very good result. Neves and Moutinho and Dendoncker again superb. Cody, Saiss and Kilman, we're running out of words to describe how good they are. Saiss in particular I thought had a very good game. Cody yet again commanding the back line. Kilman so composed in possession, beating players for fun yet again. All three of those central defenders offer us something different, and they all combine really well to make a very, very solid back three. I thought Keanu Hoover was mixed today, a couple of good moments, but overall his passing was a bit sloppy, and there was a couple of moments where if Mason Mount had put in a better ball towards the end of the game, they could have scored and Hoover kept him onside. So a couple of things to improve for him. Marcel, similar. I thought he was solid, if unspectacular. I think that's kind of Marcel, 6 or a 7 out of 10. Good defensively, not great on the ball. And Jose Sarr, yet again, superb. His aerial dominance is fantastic. Punching the ball away constantly, collecting the ball constantly, good distribution, and a fantastic save to deny Pulisic as well, which kept the score at 0-0. So certainly plenty of positive performances. I thought Daniel Podence and Jimenez worked pretty well as a front two, although we didn't really see them get on the ball much. I thought Raul had a very muted game today, and so did Adama and Trincao when they came on. So but by that point, we were already defending pretty much, so there wasn't really much they could do in the way of chances. I thought Chelsea pressed us very well in the midfield in the second half when Kovacic came on, and we did well to deal with that. I think we dealt well with Kante. He's becoming a very good box-to-box midfielder, and he was finding spaces quite well, and we dealt with that. We dealt with their attack absolutely superbly. So yeah, very good clean sheet yet again. That imperious defence is still working out for us. We just need to get more goals, and just crossing my fingers now that Bruno gets backed in January, because he desperately needs it, particularly with the squad that we have and the squad that we potentially could have and the positions we could reach with this team already. I think that will allow us to free up the squad a bit more. So fingers crossed for January, but a very, very good point nonetheless.
Right, hello Talking Wolves. Wolves 0, Chelsea 0. My initial thoughts are great draw. I'd have took it before the game. Defended like heroes again. Jose Sarr, absolute monster. Love the bloke. Defence incredible. Thought Marcel, Hoover were really good. Cody, Kilman, Saiss, spot on again. Going forward, not much happened. I missed the first 20 minutes, so Sam, hello. We're just driving back. Podence's goal, did you think it was offside when it happened?
When I first saw it, I thought, I celebrated like it was a goal.
Yeah.
But I still don't know who it was. Was it Raul? It was Raul. It was offside. So disappointing. But for me, it was the handball really. For Kante. It was just so obvious. And we're talking about events that haven't been flagged again, and compare it to last week's handball for Moutinho. You just think, where's the consistency?
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, we've seen it back. We just looked at it back on Twitter, haven't we? And it's like, he's stopped a one-on-one happening. Literally, he's the last man. He's handballed it. That's the main event. I think I looked at the stats after. I think we had 37% possession, so we were hanging on. But I mean, they've had 1 shot on target. We've had 1 shot on target. I think they had 8 shots to our 4. But look, Johnny Phillips did that article saying we've got lack of identity. At the moment, we're just surviving, and we're surviving well. We're defending like heroes, to be honest. So you've got to give Bruno a bit of credit for that, because I saw someone reply to it saying when we got battered 4-0 against Burnley, you know what I mean? That was Nuno's defence that day, and it was very similar. I think Bolly was in there, he had a shocker.
Well, Kilman was dropped at every opportunity under Nuno, and you can't say it's the same.
That's the big one. Bruno Lage's give, whether it's forced or whatever, he's give Kilman a chance, and Kilman's been absolutely brilliant. Jose Sarr's been brilliant, but there we go. A huge draw though. We'd have took it before the game, wouldn't we? 100%. And listen to the Wall 77 Club podcast. I'm Dave, I'm pulling your leg, yeah. No, we do a podcast of the Wall 77 Club if you want to check it out. No, I'm joking. Yeah, that's our thoughts on it. Huge draw, we'll take it, and yeah, incredible. Cheers Dave, cheers Matt. See you all in a bit.